Alright, so as most of you guys are probably aware at this point, E3 2020 has been canceled due to a global pandemic that I don't want to say the name of because I hear YouTube doesn't like it. I mean, I put a picture of it in the thumbnail, so I'm sure it doesn't matter, but whatever, we'll play it safe anyway. So, basically, what's been confirmed to us by sources like Kotaku as well as other very reliable and reputable sources is that Warner Brothers Games was actually going to hold a press conference at E3 2020 at which they were going to reveal the new Batman game from Warner Brothers Games Montreal, the leaked Harry Potter game from Avalanche Software, the Rocksteady Studios' new game, which was kind of shocking to all of us when we heard that that was going to be there. And I mean, if they had a whole conference, it's also very possible that they could have at least announced the name or logo of the next Monolith game or the next NetherRealm game. They could have talked about upcoming LEGO games, and it sounds like they were going to sort of just showcase their upcoming projects, which makes sense because it seems like Warner Brothers Games has kind of been in a drought lately. But then they were also sort of going to focus on their DC properties and sort of explain how they were going to expand the DC Games universe in the future. And I mean, now there's rumors of a Superman game being the second IP that Warner Brothers Games Montreal is working on after Batman. And I think it's a real shame that we won't see this conference, at least not at E3. But with that said, I want to say that, like, while I'm disappointed that this won't happen, I completely understand, and I think that they made the right call by canceling this event. As difficult as it may be, it is kind of sadly ironic, but also kind of funny that the one time we were actually going to get what we've been begging for from Warner Brothers is the time that there was a global pandemic, so it gets canceled anyway. But my point is that this is a situation that we have to take seriously. We have to listen to the authorities, and I just implore everybody listening to stay safe, stay healthy, but also don't go into this fit of mass hysteria, because that's not helpful either. We'll get through this together from a distance, but it's a very tricky situation. So the question that we all have now is, what will Warner Brothers Games do now, since they don't have this E3 time slot to reveal their games? And I think that the answer to this question is kind of dependent upon how much longer this pandemic lasts before we start finding solutions and before we start returning to some kind of normalcy, when these people can go back to work. Because if the games are not currently being developed, then we're going to have a real issue, because that could push each game back like a year, depending on how long this thing lasts. And part of that is also dependent upon if Warner Brothers is letting their studios work from home, work remotely. I have a hard time believing that they just let like 400 employees all work on a Batman game from their house. But at the same time, a lot of movie studios are sort of doing this unprecedented thing where they're letting directors and VFX artists work from home on films like the Godzilla movie, Godzilla vs. Kong. And also the Suicide Squad by James Gunn, it sounds like, is being edited from his home. So, who knows? Maybe there are like a skeleton crew of people from Warner Brothers Games Montreal that are working on the Batman game. It's possible. So, if the games get pushed back, I could see the announcements not all happening at the same time. They could be at E3 2021, which I think is the worst case scenario. They could stagger the announcements now. So, in other words, we could get the Batman announcement at one time, then the Harry Potter announcement at another time. But I don't know that that's what they'll do. Honestly, what I think will happen is they will still hold their press conference, except this time it will just be a live stream. Like, they'll do it digitally rather than being on like a show floor. And the reason that I think this is because I feel like even more than just wanting to announce their games, Warner Brothers was doing this press conference to sort of level with the fans, because I think that they know that we've been a bit frustrated in terms of them not feeling very open in communication with us. So I think that this was their chance to kind of sit down with all of us and be like, look, we know that this Batman game has taken a long time. We were sort of reassessing the trajectory that we want to take the DC games in, but now we have this Batman game coming out this year. We have Suicide Squad from Rocksteady coming out next year, after the Harry Potter game from Avalanche. And then we have, a plan for a yearly DC game. Also here's the next Lord of the Rings game from Monolith, and the next project from NetherRealm. We don't have footage of them yet, but here's some quick teasers. And I think that that's exactly what the fans of Warner Brothers games wanted to hear. Just because, like I said, there kind of has been this drought from these properties that people have wanted to see. So I think that this was sort of their chance and what they wanted to do. I think that they kind of wanted to sit down and show us what has been taking so long, and why their plans for the future will be incredible. And so my guess is that they'll still do this press conference. They'll just do it digitally. And I think that the timing of it will heavily be dependent upon where we are by E3. I keep hearing people say, well, they could do it earlier now because they don't have to do it around E3. And I don't think they will. I think that they'll want to make sure that their release dates are set, or at least realistic, and then they'll do it. So my guess is that they'll sort of assess before the timing of E3, and they'll either do the digital showcase during that time that E3 was going to be, or maybe a month or two afterward. Now, the only argument I've heard against that theory is that Warner Brothers was going to do this live stream at E3, or this press conference rather, because there would already be a whole slew of journalists and people in attendance, so it would be this big moment that would sort of be a showstopper for E3, and it really would if they had all these things planned to show. So they'd be making headlines, and it would make huge waves at E3 and be a big deal worldwide because of the event. But now, because there is no E3, the argument could be made that it won't make quite as big of an impact. However, I'd say all they have to do is market the event slightly differently, and it might be a little bit more frustrating for them, because I think that they might have to be a little bit more transparent and explain what's going to be at the press conference. So if they went on Twitter, and I'm telling you, if they got on Twitter today and said, tune in, Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific time, we're going to be doing a live stream showing off the new Batman game, the new Harry Potter game, and the new Rocksteady game. That would be huge, arguably even bigger for them than it would be at E3, because they would be they would be the news of the week. They would have the whole week to themselves. They wouldn't have to share it with Cyberpunk or Avengers or anything else. It would be just Batman, Harry Potter, whatever Rocksteady's doing, and it would be a much bigger deal. So I still could see the live stream being a realistic outlet. And again, that's not to say that that's what they will do. They could stagger the announcements. They could delay until E3 2021. Again, I think that's worst case, if all the games get delayed a year or something. But I don't think we have to worry too much. I think that we are still going to get these announcements. And while it's disappointing that we don't know what the plan is for them, we don't know that we will see them at E3, because obviously there is no E3 this year, I think that we can rest assured that Warner Brothers is on the brink of announcing these things. We'll see them soon. So we just have to hold out a little bit longer. I'm really excited for the future of DC and Warner Brothers games as a whole. So I'm very hopeful that we'll see these things soon. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you guys in the next one.